A little girl walks her dogs every morning until people discover she is hiding unbelievable secret. The town was small, the kind where everyone knew each other. Each morning, the street stayed quiet, with just the sound of birds in the trees and the soft rustling of leaves in the wind. At that hour, a little girl would appear. She couldn't have been more than 9. Always dressed in a simple jacket and worn-out sneakers, she looked gentle, yet confident. She held 6 thick leashes in her small hands, each connected to a massive German shepherd. The dogs didn't pull or bark. They walked calmly beside her, like well-trained soldiers. Heads high, tails still, eyes watching. People often stopped in their cars or at windows just to see this strange sight. A tiny girl leading a pack of powerful animals, morning after morning. No one ever saw where she went. She just appeared, walked, and disappeared again. At first, people thought it was a one-time thing. Maybe her parents were nearby. Maybe it was a game. But as the days turned into weeks, then months, the sight of the little girl and her 6 dogs became something of a local mystery. Some folks were amazed. How can someone so small control all those dogs, they whispered. Others were concerned. Where are her parents? Why is she alone? Still, no one could deny the calm power she seemed to carry. Local shopkeepers would pause their morning tasks just to catch a glimpse of her. Joggers slowed down when they passed her, nodding but never getting a reply. She never stopped to talk, just a quiet wave or a gentle smile, and she would be gone. People started calling her the Shepherd Girl. It became part of town talk, but underneath the curiosity, one question echoed more and more. What was her story? As time passed, people began to notice little things that didn't quite make sense. The dogs weren't just well-behaved. They were trained like professionals. They stopped at every corner without being told, waited for her to cross, and responded to her smallest gestures. She always walked the same path. Not once did she change her route. It led past the park, around the old bakery, and circled back by a tall oak tree near the edge of town. Every morning she paused there. Not for long, just enough for one of the dogs to sit quietly beneath the tree, staring up like it remembered something. Some mornings she stood still at a park bench and looked at it for a few seconds, as if someone once waited there for her. Then she'd move on, no words, no signs, just silence. The mystery deepened. These weren't random choices. This girl wasn't just walking dogs. She was following memories. One morning, an older woman named Mrs. Thompson stood at her window watching as usual. She had always been fascinated by the little girl and her pack of dogs. Mrs. Thompson had lived in the neighborhood for decades, and she knew everyone's business. But this girl, she was a mystery. That morning, as the girl passed by with her dogs, Mrs. Thompson noticed something new. One of the German shepherds, an older one with a scar on its paw, was acting differently. It lingered by the oak tree, as though waiting for something. The little girl didn't seem to notice, but Mrs. Thompson did. Curious, she decided to follow her, keeping a safe distance. She wanted to understand. Maybe she could help. She walked quietly behind, watching how the girl interacted with the dogs, her quiet commands, the way they responded almost instinctively. Finally, after a few minutes, Mrs. Thompson caught up with the girl, who had paused near the park bench. She gently approached her, offering a warm smile. "You walk your dog so well," she said softly. The girl looked up, her big eyes filled with a quiet sadness. Mrs. Thompson sat beside the little girl on the park bench. The morning was quiet, with only the rustling of leaves in the breeze. The girl didn't seem scared, just calm. She looked at Mrs. Thompson for a moment, as though weighing whether or not to speak. Then with a soft sigh, she began. "These dogs, they used to belong to my daddy," the girl whispered, her voice barely audible. "He trained them. He was the best at it. Every morning, we would walk them, just like this." She paused, her eyes distant, as if seeing something far away. Mrs. Thompson didn't interrupt. She just listened. The little girl continued, her voice growing softer. He died in a car crash. It was just me and the dogs after that." She swallowed hard. "I keep walking them because it feels like he's still here." The dogs, they were his family too. They were always with him, and now they're with me. The older dog with the scar looked up at her with understanding, as if it too remembered the man who had trained it so well. The girl wiped a tear from her cheek, but she didn't seem ashamed. "It's like I'm walking with him," she said, her eyes now filled with both sadness and strength. When the story of the little girl and her 6 German shepherds spread through town, the community's heart shifted. The whispers of curiosity turned into whispers of admiration. People who had once been skeptical began to understand. The girl wasn't just walking dogs. She was holding on to the memory of her family, walking alongside her father in spirit. The next morning, a few of the neighbors left flowers by the oak tree where the dogs always sat. A couple of children from the local school left drawings of the girl and her dogs taped to the bench. It was a simple tribute, but it meant a lot to the girl. Some of the shopkeepers began waving at her as she walked by, offering a kind word or a smile. One man even offered to help her with the leashes, but the girl politely shook her head. She didn't need help. She had her father's legacy with her, and that was enough. The once quiet, curious neighborhood had transformed. Now it was a place of shared respect, love, and understanding. As the days went by, the little girl continued her walks, the 6 German shepherds by her side. But now people didn't just watch her with curiosity, they watched her with a sense of wonder and respect. In her quiet strength, the girl had reminded everyone of something important: how deep love can run, even after loss. She wasn't just walking her father's dogs, she was walking through the memories they shared, keeping the bond alive with each step. And in that simple daily routine, she showed the community how powerful it can be to hold on to what we love, even in the face of grief. Sometimes the smallest actions can carry the biggest meanings. A walk in the morning, a few quiet moments with the dogs, became a powerful reminder that love doesn't fade. It endures, grows, and finds its way into the hearts of others. The little girl and her dogs became a symbol of hope and a lesson to never forget what really matters.